we're going to turn our attention from our testing updates into a discussion of our 2020 census operations and system readiness. So our first topic this afternoon will be where we are with our content development, and I'm going to turn the floor over to Marisa. So please go ahead.
Okay, hopefully this is loud enough. I'll be providing a brief update on where we are with preparing the final list of subjects that will be proposed to Congress by March 31st. So we'd like to provide more information about the major deliverable that Lisa mentioned earlier. It's going to be completed in the next 2 months. In March, we'll submit the proposed 2020 census subjects to Congress. So Title 13 requires that the Census Bureau send to Congress the subjects proposed to be included in the census no later than 3 years before the census date. So Congress will receive the subjects planned for the 2020 census program, describing the subjects proposed for the 2020 census and the American Community Survey by March 31st, 2017. Title 13 also requires that Congress receive the specific questions proposed to be included in the census no later than 2 years before the census date. So Congress will receive the questions planned for the 2020 census program, introducing the questions proposed for 2020 census and 2019 American Community Survey by March 31st, 2018. So we will submit the topics included on the 2020 census and the American Community Survey jointly, as ACS will incorporate the 2020 census content beginning in 2019. And then the Census of Island Areas will incorporate a selection of these subjects and questions as well. We've been working with our federal counterparts on developing the draft descriptions of each subject and question. They're based on the recent information about their federal requirements and then uses of census data. Federal agencies with known uses of the 2020 census or ACS content received a letter from the Census Bureau with instructions on how they could provide these updates to the documentation that we had. This was sent April 29th. We received their responses last summer, and then we've been continuing to follow up with specific agencies and incorporating their feedback into our draft of the subjects documentation. So the submission of these subjects to Congress is a documentation milestone following a long and robust development and review process. Throughout each decade, regular content reviews are conducted to ensure that all of the information we collect is required by federal programs. Following the 1990 census, OMB, in conjunction with the Census Bureau, asked federal agencies to provide information describing their data needs. This information, then updated each decade by subsequent changes to federal legislative requirements, has been used to evaluate content considered for the decennial census program. So the review process has been especially robust this decade. In 2011, 5 years after its launch, the ACS program accomplished its primary objective with the release of its first set of estimates for every area of the United States. The Census Bureau concluded that this was an appropriate time to conduct a comprehensive assessment of the ACS program. And then in 2012, OMB and the Census Bureau chartered the Interagency Council on Statistical Policy, ICSP, subcommittee on the ACS to provide advice to the director of the Census Bureau and the chief statistician at OMB on how the ACS could best fulfill its portfolio, or best fulfill its role in the portfolio of federal household surveys and provide the most useful information with the least amount of burden. So the subcommittee charter also states that the subcommittee would be expected to conduct regular and periodic reviews of the ACS content designed to ensure that there's clear and specific authority and justification for each question to be on the ACS. The ACS is the appropriate vehicle for collecting the information, respondent burden is being minimized, and the quality of the data from ACS is appropriate for its intended use. So that formation of the ICSP subcommittee on the ACS and the aforementioned assessment of the ACS program provided an opportunity to examine and confirm the value of each question on the ACS and confirm and update the statutory and regulatory authority for the questions on the ACS with federal agencies. This was accomplished through the ACS content review, which evaluated each ACS question against 19 decision criteria, including the nature of the federal uses, the geographic level of uses, sensitivity, and overall difficulty. And then also on here you can see the 2012 to 2018 period is the primary research and testing phase for the 2020 census and 2019 ACS. The research conducted during this window evaluates and compares different versions of the questions that could be asked in the future. The 2015 National Content Test and 2016 ACS Content Test were the primary mid-decade opportunities to evaluate the new and modified questions prior to making any final decisions for 2020 census. So this, in 2016, using the 2014 documentation of those federal uses as a starting point, we informed federal agencies of the process planned to develop and submit these subjects and invited them to provide their updated information. So that's a long synopsis of what this diagram is intended to kind of show. And then in terms of detailed activities, we've incorporated federal agency updates. We've created the submission, and now we're beginning the process of briefing our many stakeholders with an interest in the 2020 census, including federal agencies, states and local governments, academia, businesses, nonprofit organizations, media, respondents, data users, and oversight groups. We aim to develop a process that's clear and transparent to all stakeholders and offer opportunities for input to be provided and considered throughout the process. In addition to the deliverables of our proposed content to Congress, the Census Bureau will submit an information collection request to OMB in 2018 that would describe the information needed, why it's needed, how it would be collected, and how much it would cost in terms of respondents and government. And of course, in advance of submitting the ICR, we'll publish a Federal Register notice informing the public and soliciting comments for 60 days. So in terms of what the subjects document would actually look like, historically, the Census 2000 and 2010 submissions have presented the information shown in this structure. I'll give you a second to kind of absorb that. Sorry. So for each subject, it would walk through the year that the subject was first included in the decennial census or on the ACS. It would talk about why the question is asked and its relationship to the published data, summarize the federal government uses of data, summarize uses at the community level, and then show a selection of statutory uses for each subject. Okay. So this is kind of a notional example of what a subject might look like. This would be for age asked since 1790. So you can kind of see here the brief plain language description of how age data are used. And then in terms of how age data help communities, in the actual document, each of these bullet points below age data help communities would have a full paragraph describing how we have sort of summarized the uses of, how we have summarized the federal agency uses that are described by that bullet, if that makes sense. And then in terms of how we would disseminate this information, we've previously made the subjects documents available on census.gov as soon as they're delivered to Congress, and we plan to do that again this March. However, we understand that this information is useful for all stakeholders, including respondents who may wonder about why certain questions are asked. We're working on innovative ways to share this information on the census.gov web pages. The current prototype includes some of the text we've mentioned already, as well as images of questionnaires, FAQs, example data points, and infographics, videos, and data user stories that are available right now, but we would connect those questions, or we would connect all of that content to the subject description and kind of connect for people these subjects to benefits at the community level. And then I hope to return during April's PMR and show you the final versions of these supporting materials and provide the final list of subjects proposed. It was really fast. I don't know if there are any questions.
Hi, Tricia Durr, Office of Inspector General. Hi. Yeah, that last webpage explanation, I apologize if you've already said this, but is that on all the different questions also for the decennial census? I know like in group quarters, some of those questions may be sensitive as well, so any kind of explanation that can be offered might be useful.
At the moment, it's a prototype, so I don't know if I could speak to what the final content would be, but we could pass on that suggestion.
Will you also have, and it may not have applied to this one, the statutory basis for the questions? So there will be, because I think that's important to have too, that, the population and Congress itself needs to understand that they are sometimes the source for these questions.
Okay. I apologize if I rushed through that, but each subject would have a selection of statutory uses.
Great, I think that would be very helpful.
Okay, any other questions on this topic? If not, thank you very much, Marisa, well done. We're going to turn the floor over to Tasha, who's going to give us an update on our Integrated Partnership and Communications Program. Tasha?
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm happy to give you some information about the Integrated Partnership and Communications Program. And just to level set again, so you know where it sits in the census design, it's underneath the Optimizing the Internet Self-Response. To help ensure that we have the best possible count, we want the public to self-respond, obviously. And in this digital age, having an online option is paramount to the census. We anticipate that many people will use this mode, and the current usage in the ACS, obviously, and our previous census tests support this, but still understanding the need for paper. We are not yet a completely digital society, so obviously, yes, that is the reason why we still need the use for paper. Next slide, please. The importance of the Integrated Partnership and Communications Program, IPC, is to engage and motivate people to self-respond, preferably using the internet, but also to raise and keep awareness high and encourage people to respond through the census. The IPC is made up of many different activities. I'm sure some of you are well aware, but I'm highlighting 6 main components here, and you see partnership is in the center of that. Website and mobile, social media, statistics in schools, paid advertising, and media relations. The integration of all these components will ensure consistent messaging throughout the census. Next slide. The major component that we have already started, and we started this earlier than we did in 2010, is supporting our tests through the partnership program. The partnership program is made up of 2 components, the national part as well as the community partnership and engagement, which previously in 2010 was called our regional partnership program. But this is the same program. We just want to highlight that it is at the grassroots community level, and that's why we had the word community in its name. We know we're more likely, and the people in the community, to trust and respond and complete a call to action by engaging our partners, and these are the trusted voices. The National Partnership Program taps into the trusted voices using organizations to raise awareness and about the census and to encourage people to respond. So this means that we'll leverage our current relationships to sponsor and promote and advocacy to direct messaging and build brand awareness about the census. We will organize activities and events that will promote through social and digital engagement to increase our response rates and data use and feedback. So some of the things that Marisa was talking about the usage of the data, we want to make sure that we explain that to our partners in the community. The Community Partnership and Engagement Program creates the community or grassroots levels of the partnership throughout the entire United States. This program focuses on motivating diverse communities toward greater participation in the census, mobilizes community leaders to engage their constituents to be counted, and outreach to populations with historically low response areas and rates, and more challenging to count. This is done by educating people about the 2020 census and fostering that cooperation with enumerators when they come by the door, and encouraging community partners to motivate people to self-respond and engage at that grassroots organizations to reach out to these more challenging groups sometimes and to count those who weren't motivated to respond to the national campaign. While much of the work under the Integrated Communications Contract will be folded into the partnership program work, we will do a deeper dive in the overall scope of the IPC and the integration of the ICC at a later time, but this was just to give you some highlights. I'll now talk about the Integrated Communications Contract. To help implement the 2020 Integrated Partnership and Communications Program, the Integrated Communications Contract, or ICC, was awarded to Young and Rubicam, called YNR, in August of 2016. The ICC scope is to plan, design, produce, implement, and monitor an integrated communications program for the 2020 census. So some of those components that I talked about earlier on that other slide, this contract will help us integrate all those components. The importance, obviously, is to support the 2020 mission to conduct a complete and accurate count. The Partnership and Communication Program obviously is the very public face of the census, and this contract is key to the foundation for a successful census. We have learned a great deal in the last two censuses, and we plan to use a lot of that planning and lessons learned from previous censuses to help us as we move forward. To give some background about YNR, they were the Census 2000 vendor that helped us to implement paid advertising for the very first time in Census 2000. And so they're back with us this time around. There are currently 16 subcontractors that make up Team YNR, and in the next slide, I'll show you this consolidated list. The contract will run through 2021, and the budget ceiling is at $415 million. Now, we extended the contract this time around because a big lesson learned last time in 2010 census was that we did not fully utilize their help because the contract had ended with the dissemination of the data. And so we want to utilize their help this time around. At this point, I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce two of the leads that we have here from Team YNR. If Alex Hughes would stand, he is the Team YNR Census Program Director, and Jack Benson is the Deputy Director for Team YNR. We're very happy to have them on board with us. Next slide. As mentioned, there are 16 subcontractors that are part of Team YNR. I won't take the opportunity to go through them with you at this point in time, but you can read them on the slide and you have that for your future reference. But I wanted to point out that there are many subcontractors here who are used to help us target diverse audiences that we need to reach for the census. These are not the only contractors that will be a part of Team YNR. They are for this point in time, but we will add additional subcontractors as we move through the census for additional needs. From November to January, Team YNR participated in listening tours at the Census regional offices to find out about their regions and the challenges that they feel they will face this census. This was really good sessions with all the regional offices. The regional directors participated in this and their staff. It was a lot of learning and exchanging back and forth. It was an opportunity for them to meet the Team YNR and engage and get to know each other. But really the learning will help fold into the work that they need to do in future. Also upcoming, we will continue to have stakeholder listening tours, all the feedback that we get from stakeholders, including some of the work that we've done in the past, but also as we move forward. We kicked off a lot of that work this month. Some of the top 5 themes from the regional office tour that we learned, and these are probably no surprises to many of you: extend stakeholder engagement early and often to get the feedback so you can incorporate into the plans and adjust the plans as needed based on that feedback. The integration of the partnership program at the local and national level into the fabric of the ICC. Remember, I had partnership in the center with the other components surrounding around it. This is very key because they are the ones in the fields Lisa mentioned earlier. The field gets the job done for us, so we need to make sure that the partnership specialists are integrated. use our trusted voices. I talked about this. I don't need to tell you how important the trusted voices are in order for the community to really listen and understand and fully engage and know about the importance of the census. Recruitment will be extremely challenging due to a lot of different factors, and so many of the regions highlighted some of the challenges that they felt they were facing in this area. Messaging is key, specifically to address the diversity in each of the various target audiences. We know from past censuses and the work that we've tried to do with the Communications and Partnership Program to make sure that we're developing messages that resonate with different audiences. What's important to them? What reaches them in order to actually motivate them to respond to the census? So all the information from these listening tours, as well as from listening to various stakeholders as we move through the progression of this year, will be folded into the National Communications Plan that Team Y&R is working with the Census Bureau on. We'll also be looking back at our 2000, but most importantly, our 2010 lessons learned and the things that we learned to incorporate into this plan as well. So hopefully we'll be able to present that to you in a later date this year. So with that, are there any questions? Really? That was a good overview then, right?
I think it's a Friday afternoon.
Oh, that's what it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tasha. With that, we're going to turn the floor over to Bryn Johnson, who's going to give us an update on where we are in our field infrastructure. Bryn.
Okay. Field infrastructure means a lot of different things to many people. I'm going to give you an overview of DCMD's field infrastructure area, a description of the different functions it performs, and examples of the various operations it supports. Field infrastructure provides program management support, direction, and funding for a variety of activities grouped under two main operational areas: decennial logistics management and recruiting, training, and onboarding. Field infrastructure coordinates space acquisition for and lease management of the regional census centers, the area census offices, provides logistics management services, and provides the administrative infrastructure for data collection operations covering the 50 states, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico. I'll go into greater detail of the description of these two main areas in the next few slides, including upcoming milestone dates and the status of a few of the major activities. Oops. Some of the main functions of Decennial Logistics Management, or DLM for short, are to coordinate space acquisition for and lease management of the 6 different regional census centers, or RCCs for short, and up to 250 area census offices, or ACOs for short. And just for reference, the ACOs were known as LCOs, or local census offices, in 2010. The coordination of space and leasing is done in collaboration with the Census Bureau's Field Division and also in coordination with the General Services Administration, or GSA. The other major activity is collaborating with support areas such as Field Division and the National Processing Center to provide logistics management support services for the decennial. Examples of these support services are procuring and setting up warehouse space, providing the different RCCs and ACOs with supplies and materials, inventory management, assembly of kits such as recruiting, administrative, and training kits, deployment of materials to the RCCs and ACOs, accessing remaining materials after the operations conclude, and printing and shipping activities. Continuing with Decennial Logistics Management, I'll move on to some of our major milestone dates. Lease acquisitions for the 6 RCCs for the 2020 census are as follows. The lease for the Philadelphia RCC was awarded on November 8th of last year, and lease acquisitions for the Los Angeles, Dallas, Chicago, New York, and Atlanta RCCs are ongoing and expected to be awarded early this year. Area census offices will open in various waves. Approximately 30 ACOs will open up in waves of 10 from January 2019 through March 2019 in order to support the address canvassing operation and to provide a test run in preparation for opening the remaining ACOs, which will open in 3 waves of approximately 70 ACOs per wave, with all ACOs open by September 2019. Moving on to the logistics piece of Decennial Logistics Management. The Integrated Logistics Management System, or ILMS, which helps manage and track the many different forms, kits, supplies, and equipment, is being enhanced for use as an enterprise system across the Census Bureau by regional offices, regional census centers, area census offices, and headquarters. It will provide real-time integrated logistics data for better decision-making, reducing expenditure of manual labor time and money. The ILMS will also tighten program control, improving response to unplanned requirements, and will enable compliance with government inventory reporting regulations. Also for the 2020 census, the shipping of the various kits, recruiting, administrative, bulk office supply, training, will begin in January 2018 for the RCCs and January 2019 for the ACOs. On this final slide of the presentation, we'll switch gears and move on to the recruiting, training, and onboarding piece of field infrastructure, or RTO for short. The overall purpose of RTO is to provide and manage the scope, cost, and schedule of the administrative infrastructure for data collection operations covering the 50 states, District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico. This administrative infrastructure includes those items listed on this slide, some of the most common of which are recruiting, training, hiring, personnel and payroll, and background checks. And so that's Field Infrastructure 101. Any questions? Thank you.
I think the break took everything out of everyone. Okay. Bryn, thank you very much. We're going to move on to a continuation, actually, of an earlier discussion we had for those of you that were able to be here early and see the demonstration that we did of our Census Questionnaire Assistance Program. Sheila is now going to provide a summary and a little bit more information in a slightly different direction on our CQA operation. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is officially the 7th inning stretch of our program today. So as you know, the CQA operation is one of 34 operational areas that make up the 2020 census program. Its mission is to provide questionnaire assistance about specific items on the census questionnaire and other frequently asked questions about the 2020 census, such as, what happens to my data? Should I report my son who is away at college? And can I get information about the age question? The operation also provides an option for respondents to complete their census interview via the telephone. The CQA call agents are equipped and prepared to conduct the interview over the telephone. Although not in the 2017 census test, but in the 2018 testing and in the 2020 census, CQA will also provide outbound calling in support of census quality assurance operations and improving data collected by following up on cases with inconsistencies and discovered anomalies. Next slide. Based on the complexity of the physical infrastructure and the systems needed to support a CQA operation, the Census Bureau contracted this operation to private industry, where these experiences and capabilities already exist on the scale necessary for the 2020 operations. In July 2016, the contract was awarded to General Dynamics Information Technology Incorporated. They are a company with a proven track record of providing and performing capabilities similar to the 2020 Census CQA operation in functionality, surge, and language support. The implementation of CQA will occur in the three major phases listed here, aligning with the 2017 testing, the 2018 testing, and the 2020 census respectively. Next slide. GDIT's organizational structure is focused around an agreed upon contract work breakdown structure that I'll touch on in the next slide. At this time, though, I'd like to introduce the management team, and I'll ask them to please stand as I call their names. I'll begin with the program manager, Victor Janey. Next, Julie Dunlop, Myra Mayfield, Jim Stevens, and then representing Chris Ballister, who couldn't be here today, Ralph Smith. Next is Jake Bradford, Mark Rosenfeld, Adam Slagowski, and representing Susie Wolf is Lisa Fanning. Thank you. I'd like to make a note. GDIT's 20 years of census experience begins with the Deputy PM, Julie Dunlop, who you may recognize from 2000 and the 2010 censuses. The other staff members with past census experience are indicated on this slide with a small red 2010 census logo. GDIT's census experience also includes the successful conduct of the 2010 Census Telephone Questionnaire Assistance, which helps reduce our operational and system risks. Additionally, I'll add that GDIT has a 30-year history of providing contact centers that work well for the public's needs. They operate more than 15 government-to-citizen multi-channel solutions and contact centers throughout the country. Each year, GDIT employs over 20,000 customer service representatives, or CSRs, who handle over approximately 50 million inbound calls, 69,000 outbound calls, 512,000 written letters or fax inquiries, 1 million emails, and roughly 1.7 million web chats across a variety of different programs annually. All of this experience and expertise helps reduce the risks to the 2020 census program. Next slide, please. As I mentioned previously, the basis of our contract management is centered on our agreed-upon contract work breakdown structure, or CWBS. It is the basis used for assigning responsibilities, allocating budget, tracking progress, and collecting and managing costs. The CWBS at the very highest level is centered on these 5 areas shown here: program management, architecture, technology, contact center facility implementation management, and contact center operations. Collaboration between the CQA Government Program Management Office and GDIT's CQA Program Management Office is through a series of established integrated product teams, or IPTs. These IPTs are created around the CWBS subject matter and are collaborative meetings between the applicable subject matter staff from each PMO. Now, I'm going to take some time and I'm going to provide a high-level overview of some of the technologies provided by the CQA solution. When respondents contact the census, the language they speak is identified by the toll-free number the respondent dials. If the call passes to a representative, this information will appear in the agent desktop tool so the representative knows the language the respondent desires to speak. Within the Interactive Voice Response System, or IVR, respondents may utilize the self-service option to listen to frequently asked questions that provide information such as the confidentiality of the information they are asked to provide, the authority of the Census Bureau to collect this information, as well as provide answers to assist respondents in completing the census questionnaire. At any time, respondents may also be transferred to a representative who can assist them in completing the census questionnaire. Information is collected within the IVR as respondents interact with the technology. The IVR passes several pieces of information to the agent desktop tool, which is what the agents utilize to answer calls, access knowledge articles like the FAQs, and launch the Internet Self-Response, or ISR tool, to collect respondent data. One piece of data that we talked about at the beginning of this slide is the language. As I mentioned, the language is identified based upon the number the respondent called to contact the Census Bureau. A call code is also passed from the IVR to the call agent, which shows where the respondent left off in the IVR. By this I mean which menu item was the respondent on when they were transferred to an agent. The user ID, which is provided to the respondent from the Census Bureau, is also collected if it is provided by the respondent. And finally, a unique number assigned to the call is also passed to the call agent. Call agents use the agent desktop to answer calls and receive the call information from the IVR, which they were able to view as the call is coming in. Soft phone tools allow them to answer, hold, or end a call. An agent script appears for them to greet and end a call, and finally within the tool they are also able to launch the Internet Self-Response tool, allowing them to assist in completing the census questionnaire on behalf of the respondent. And lastly, the Census Bureau's Unified Tracking System, or UTS, collects data from the CQA system tools to allow the Census Bureau to report on needed data and statistics, such as the number of responses received in CQA per day, like by language, et cetera. Next slide. So as I mentioned earlier, the contract was awarded in mid-July, and we've been quite busy since then. A few of the program's noteworthy accomplishments include opening and staffing GDIT's Program Management Office, establishing the program management framework, including schedule, risk, issue, and change management processes, which document our established process, and those are also currently being fully exercised. Completing and the required facility security level, or FSL certifications, which designate all sites as ready for use in the 2017 test. Reviewing and accepting standard operating procedures, preparing call center operations with training, human resource management, and quality control processes, and completing the builds for the CQA system and beginning the integrated testing. Sorry, it's page stuff. Phase. This includes establishing critical interfaces with the UTS, or Unified Tracking System, and the Internet Self-Response Instrument for management, information reporting, and data collection, respectively. And then lastly, demonstrating our CQA system tools to key stakeholders and collecting feedback to improve these tools. For those that participated in the pre-PMR demo, you got a chance to see how the CQA Agent desktop system looks, feels, and works. And in case you didn't know at that point in time, that was real. That was a live demo. And then, next slide. Looking at our key operational milestones, we have completed the first 4 noted above. They focused on getting our contract awarded and completing an initial 2020 Census Detailed Operational Plan. The operational plan document presents the detailed design for the 2020 CQA operation and includes a summary of the processes involved, their inputs, outputs, and controls, and the basic mechanisms employed to conduct the operational work. It has been released in the 2020 Census Memorandum Series, and it's available on the 2020 Census website. The next significant milestone is conducting the CQA operation in support of the 2017 Census test, which is scheduled to begin in March of 2017. Final key activities in our detailed schedule needing completion prior to going live for the 2017 Census test are completing and baselining the remaining CQA standard operating procedures, and those will be finished in early March or before early March, completing final system testing, which begins in the next few days, and attaining the CQA system authority to operate by March 1st. Work will proceed next with requirements gathering, planning, designing, developing, and testing the CQA system in support of the 2018 end-to-end test. Functionality for 2018 expands to include web chat and email communication options, as well as outbound calling in support of census quality assurance and content coverage improvement operations. And the 2018 CQA operation begins in March of 2018. Any questions? Awesome.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation and for the earlier demonstration.
Certainly.
Yeah, the person who's going to be calling because perhaps they don't have internet access, and they presumably what triggers them is this card that comes in the mail and it has a census ID on it, and then the call center is prepared to take the entire response from the person. I was just curious how much of a, what kind of workload will that look like? Like how many actual questionnaire responses are going to be expected? And does this go, a little bit, I'm thinking about the communications as well, the partnership and communications. Oh, if you don't have internet, you can just call this number and, fill in your questionnaire over the phone. I guess one of my questions is also not just the workload, but you mentioned not necessarily having the census ID. So is that going to also be part of like the non-ID processing is going to be involved there?
Yeah, okay. So the first part of your question, how many responses do we expect to get through CQA? Our estimates right now are about 5.3%, which translates to about 7.5 million cases we expect to get through CQA. And the second part of your question about non-ID, yes, we are prepared to handle both ID and non-ID cases.
So just to follow up a little bit and I'm sure you know this, but the use of census questionnaire assistance, and really the expanded use of census questionnaire assistance, is one of the key design improvements for the 2020 census. The ability to take the responses over the telephone, the ability to offer that through our advertising and partnership efforts for people to call in if they don't want to use the internet, if they can't use the internet, or if they don't want to wait for a paper response, is a critical design element for us. And that's one of the reasons why we're so excited about the demonstration that we saw earlier today, and in a few minutes when Jason does the demonstration of our internet self-response instrument, the interconnectivity between the two. Any other questions for Sheila? I know we had a lot of questions earlier today as well, so. Okay, if not, Sheila, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So what we're going to do now is stay on the theme that we're currently on, but expand it just slightly, and focus more specifically on 2020 census systems readiness. We have Autry and Patty, I like to call it the Autry and Patty Show, who are going to talk with us about our SEDCAP and non-SEDCAP systems. And then as a follow-on to that, Jason, who's our product owner for the Internet Self-Response Instrument, will share with you a demonstration of that instrument as where we are today in preparation for the 2017 census test. Autry?
Thank you, Lisa. Good So Patty and I are excited to be here to discuss the progress made since the last PMR in relation to the decennial census systems, including the key census enterprise data collection and processing, or what we call as SEDCAP systems. As Lisa mentioned, we are joined today by Jason Reese from the Decennial Census Management Division. Jason is the product owner for the Internet Self-Response System Development Work Stream, and he'll demonstrate the latest version of the ISR, the Internet Self-Response System. As you all know, the replanned 2017 census test is to begin in a few weeks, and so I'll go over the readiness of the systems supporting that test. I'll then go over the readiness of the key systems supporting the 2018 end-to-end census test. Patty will then go over the readiness of the SEDCAP systems supporting the test. For each of the decennial census systems, we have a well-defined schedule as part of the integration and implementation plan, the IIP as we call it. We ensure that the lessons learned from the conducted census tests are implemented as appropriate enhancements or improvements to the 2017 census test systems, and we'll continue to do the same for the 2018 end-to-end census test systems. We're also implementing interfaces that ensure efficient and secure interoperability and scalability of the systems. We are continuing to work with our onboard contractors and vendors to implement some of our key solutions. We are in the final stages of standing up the 2017 census test infrastructure, and we are working on with the technical integrator to finalize the 2018 end-to-end census test infrastructure architecture so that the needed systems environment could be stood up and tested in time before we go live. Shown on the screen is the solution architecture for the 2017 census test. The shown IT systems will support a nationwide sample of 80,000 households for a self-response only operation. The modes of self-response will be internet, paper, and telephone. The MAF-Tiger system cards the enterprise censuses and surveys enabling platform-based operational control system, again a SEDCAP system, the intelligent postal tracking system, commercial printing, enterprise service bus, and the unified tracking system will support the printing and mailing operation. The response data collection through each of the modes and subsequent response data processing will be supported by quite a few systems, including iCADE, again the eCase-based operational control systems, the Internet Self-Response System, Census Questionnaire Assistance, as you heard, the MAF-Tiger system, PAIRSys, which is the production environment for the administrative records, real-time non-ID, and so on. The master control system and WebCATI systems will support a telephone-based content re-interview operation. We're making good progress overall in getting the 2017 census test system of systems ready, especially the SETCAP components under the eCase platform, which will be used for the first time in production. This slide shows the second part of the 17 census test solution architecture with administrative support services, enterprise enabling IT support services, and systems supporting stakeholder relations. On this slide and the next few slides, the key efforts and updates required by each of the key non-SETCAP systems are shown. One change for the 2000 census test is the deployment of the real-time non-ID processing system in a cloud integrated with the SETCAP Internet Self-Response system. The remaining systems you see on this slide have all been used before in the previous census tests, and so we're doing a repeat production deployment. Also, it's to be noted that IPTS, the Intelligent Postal Tracking System, uses the Enterprise Service Bus to convey the relevant postal tracking information to the SETCAP operational control system. For census questionnaire assistance, the onboard contractor is working with us to set up the CQA systems, as you heard before, and their interfaces with the appropriate 2017 census test systems. Please note that the responses through telephone will be captured by the CQA operators using a customized version of the SETCAP Internet Self-Response system. CQA system of systems is being deployed in a cloud and will interact with ISR that's also deployed in a cloud. The matching and coding software under the umbrella of the MapTiger system will be used to manually enhance and match or geocode addresses that come in through the non-ID path. Basically, when the non-ID automated match attempt did not yield a matched address. The PAIRSys environment will be used to enhance the unmatched non-ID addresses to see if the enhanced address can result in a match. DRPS, Decennial Response Processing System, will be used for response data processing and will be deployed for the first time in support of the 2017 census test. The rest of the systems on this slide are a reuse from previous census tests. This slide shows the key efforts or updates required by each of the non-SETCAP support systems for the 2017 census test. We are on track to stand up the commercial printing interfaces with the help of the vendor. The remaining systems will be used as is. Shown on the screen is the solution architecture for the 2018 end-to-end census test. Most of you have seen the architecture presented in the previous PMR, so I'm not going to go into the detail of this. While the Pega platform-based eCase solutions of Internet Self-Response and the operational control system will be redeployed after use in support of the 17 census tests, the remaining eCase components, like the address listing and mapping, enumeration, field operational control system, will be deployed for the first time in production to support the 2018 end-to-end census test. As you can see, the 2018 end-to-end census test resembles closely the 2020 census. And therefore, we are working closely with our onboard contractors to complete the work on each of the IT components, ensure interoperability, set up the IT infrastructure, perform thorough testing, including the scalability testing, work towards achieving the authority to operate, and confirm that the system of systems is performing to the operational expectations of the 2020 program. We're making good progress and are on track to meet the 18 end-to-end census test timelines. In parallel, we're also designing and finalizing the architecture for systems monitoring, redundancy, COOP, continuity of operations, and disaster recovery. Shown on the screen is the second part of the 2018 end-to-end census test solution architecture with administrative support services, enterprise enabling IT support services, and systems supporting stakeholder relations. On this slide and the next few slides, the key efforts and updates required by each of the key non-SETCAP systems are shown. For the integrated partnership and communications operation, we are standing up an integrated solution that consists of the 2020 website, customer relationship management, the data management platform, and customer experience management. We'll disseminate the Decennial products using the enterprise data dissemination environment under SETSI, starting with the redistricting data file demonstration products as part of the 2018 end-to-end census test. We're making expected progress with the development of these systems, and based on the announcement you heard today on coverage measurement, which is not going to be in scope for the 2018 end-to-end census test, the CM systems of processing and control, clerical match and map, and imputation and estimation will be developed per a plan that we are in the process of developing and finalizing based on the decision you heard today. For census questionnaire assistance, we'll be testing the outbound calling capability in addition to the functionality that's in scope for the 17 census test. C-Sharps will provide the recruiting capability, starting with the recruitment of field staff for the 2018 end-to-end census test enumeration operation. The solution will be interfacing with DAPS and check systems, as you see on the screen. We released and awarded the Department of Commerce Support Services Initiative Service Desk Technology and Support Blanket Purchase Agreement, SSI-SDT SBPA, Call Order 001, which is the Discover and Design. We conducted vendor onboarding with CSRA through solution overviews of BPMs, gap analysis, and solution architecture. We also released Call Order 2, Build and Implementation, and we'll award Call Order 2 when we finalize and get the information back from the Department of Commerce. While there is an existing legacy system of IPTS, the Intelligent Postal Tracking System, we are working to enhance the system to meet the scalability requirements for the 2020 census. MAFTIGA is an ASIS system and will supply collection geographies in support of the 18 end-to-end census test. MAFTIGA-based address and geospatial data delivery mechanism is in place. Imagery and web map services have been in place, but we are provisioning vector tile service, which is a geospatial technology, to help better configure the mobile devices with the needed maps and geographic boundaries. We built PAIRSYS in order for the 2020 census operations to be successful in utilizing administrative records and third-party data. The initial version of the solution is in testing stage to be deployed for the 2017 census test. We are on track to release the system with any necessary enhancements and all of the needed data in support of the 2018 end-to-end census test. The real-time non-ID processing system has already been used successfully, as you all know, in the previous census test. As mentioned before, RTNP will be operating in a cloud-based production environment for the 2017 census test. We will assess if the same deployment can be used for the 2018 end-to-end census test with an interface to the eCase platform-based internet self-response system. The enhanced version of the American Community Survey tabulation system will support the 2020 decennial census. There are some performance and workflow-related enhancements that are being applied to have it ready for deployment in support of the 2018 end-to-end census test. This slide shows the key efforts and updates required by each of the non-SETCAP support systems for the 2018 end-to-end census test. For each of the systems, we have a well-defined schedule and detailed plan as to how we get done within that schedule. Many of the systems will need to be tested for scalability, and key dependency for the scalability test is the availability of scalable infrastructure. That brings up the role of the technical integrator. The technical integration contract was awarded to T-Rex Corporation of Greenbelt, Maryland, in August of 2016. The contract will provide architecture and engineering expertise to define, guide, and execute the integration of the 2020 census technical solution. The primary objective of awarding this contract is to ensure that the 2020 census systems integrate, scale, and perform as one system of systems and meet the 2020 census business objectives securely. The contract provides standard architecture and engineering services such as requirements management and business architecture at the program level, and detailed solution design for physical infrastructure and disaster recovery. The physical infrastructure encompasses data center capability with some cloud components, as well as remote offices, including the regional census centers, area census offices, data capture centers, NPC or the National Processing Center, and mobile end users. The technical integrator will also provide IT security architecture, engineering, and fraud detection expertise to design and implement a robust, comprehensive, and adaptive security solution. This slide identifies Team T-Rex. T-Rex serves as a prime. Other companies on this team include both small and large businesses. Z Inc. is T-Rex's contract teaming agreement partner. Leidos, formerly Lockheed Martin, IT Business Services, Accenture, General Dynamics, SES, Whirlwind, Viduri, and Octo. All of these partners bring IT expertise to the program, and importantly, many have Census Bureau and decennial census experience. At this time, first I'd like to introduce the program manager for the technical integration contract, Barbara Lopresti. Please stand, Barbara. Who has done a wonderful job in setting up the GPMO for us. I also would like to introduce a few folks from T-Rex. Amy McKenna, the Deputy Program Manager. She probably stepped out. The team probably stepped out. Sean Murphy, who is the Chief Operating Officer. And Tim Witham, who is the Chief Engineer. We're happy to have them all aboard. This slide identifies the technical directives issued so far, 9 directives, as you can see, accomplishment of which will be critical for the success of the 2020 program. We have established a governance process for the execution, analysis, and acceptance of the work and work products through the technical directives, starting with the Government Program Management Office in the recently established Decennial Contracts Execution Office, the Systems Engineering and Integration Organization in DITD, and 2020 IT Governance Board that I chair, and the Technical Solutions Assessment SIPR Board chaired by our CIO, and the weekly Systems and Operations Alignment Executive Steering Committee chaired by our Deputy Director and attended by the Director and the Associate Directors. The governance process is to ensure open and timely communication, decision-making, direction setting, and problem resolution. We're making good progress in all aspects of the technical directives and are eager to have the full strength of TI staff onboarded. We have a well-functioning facility in Greenbelt, Maryland, where we are co-locating the contractors and federal employees, and with integrated product teams established, technical interchanges are occurring efficiently. With that, I now hand over to Patty McGuire to talk about the SETCAP systems readiness. Patty?
Thanks, Autry. So I actually have been the program manager. This is my 1-year anniversary this month, and for SETCAP, and it has just flown by. But I have shown this picture. This is at the previous PMRs, and I'm showing it again today to remind everybody of the enterprise data collection and processing capabilities provided by the SETCAP systems. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the specific CEDCAP data collection and processing capabilities that will support the 2017 census test and the 2018 end-to-end test. I've mentioned in previous PMRs that some CEDCAP systems are not new. The systems providing paper data capture, the universe creation, and the service-oriented architecture capabilities have already supported previous census tests. These same systems are also on track to support the 2017 census test. They have delivered their 2017 census test functionality for the program-level integration testing conducted by the 2020 census program. I've also talked before that a big change to CEDCAP came last year with the COTS capability assessment decision that was made by the Census Bureau in May 2016. The decision introduced a hybrid solution for CEDCAP, including using a COTS product for providing a portion of the CEDCAP capabilities. That results in the CEDCAP system called eCase, or Enterprise Census and Surveys Enabling Platform, and it uses the COTS product called Pega 7. We're using an agile Scrum delivery methodology to configure the COTS platform for Census Bureau use. The project uses an incremental delivery cycle with 3-week sprints, and the product owners, who all come from the 2020 census program, so this is Jason, have seen and signed off on the functionality reviewed to date. In January, after finishing up our last sprint before the delivery for the 2017 census test, the product owners reviewed the functionality for that sprint, and CEDCAP delivered the eCase functionality for the start of the 2017 census test program level integration testing. And you'll get to see a demonstration of the internet self-response capability in just a few moments. Besides working on the 2017 census test, work on eCase functionality and other CEDCAP systems for the end-to-end test is underway, including listing and mapping and enumeration. It's in progress and following the same incremental delivery approach that was used for the 2017 census test. CEDCAP architects and engineers are working closely with the 2020 staff to ensure that the CEDCAP systems scale to meet the 2020 workloads. Besides deploying capabilities to support the 2017 census test and the 2018 end-to-end test, we are going to begin performing performance and security-related testing. And this work will be an ongoing effort as the 2020 census refines its designs. So now I'm going to turn the microphone over to Jason Reese, who, as Autry mentioned, is the product owner in Decennial for the internet self-response capability in eCase.
Thanks, Patty. Before we start, before we press play on the video, a quick talk about what we're going to talk about, or what we're going to see and not see. Since it is pretty late in the day, we sort of trimmed this down so that we're not really showing any RTMP functionality, the non-ID process, and we're not really doing any CQA demo stuff, just for time concerns. Another thing, this is more or less just a demo of the UI and the functionality that's built on the Pega 7 platform. So we're not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about the way the questions are worded or any of that. It's more or less just the functionality. It's skip patterns, screen flow, things of that nature. And let's see, I think that's it. Just a quick note, any of the data that I'm using in here is just test data. This is all made up stuff. This is there's no Title 13 data here. The census ID that we use to log in, I actually made that up myself. And I think there may be a couple of places where we need to pause. So what we've done for this, it's not a live demo, obviously, we don't have a computer in front. It's a video of me doing a demo a few nights ago after the developers were out of the environment. A few reasons for that. Every environment that in which this application is stood up are currently in some level of review or testing in prep for the deployment for the 17 test. So this is not live. This is an MP4 of me on this a few days ago. Okay, I think with that we can sort of press play and start. This is the landing screen. We're not really trying to overload the respondent here, just basics about the survey, what to expect. Draw attention to the Start Questionnaire button. This is pretty standard issue across most census surveys. Pay attention to the consent and warning message. When you start the questionnaire, a sort of new functionality is the Google reCAPTCHA CAPTCHA. We used it last year, but we moved it up to the front of the survey this year to increase security, ensure that this is human interaction with the application. So once that is passed, you're into the login screen. This UI is being updated. This is more or less the mobile view. The entire instrument is responsively designed. So I've already entered an ID. The next screen that we get to is to confirm that you are filling this out for the address provided, and this should be the address. It should match the address on the thing in the mail. The next functionality is that the system itself generates a random 6-digit PIN, and you will absolutely need this PIN to re-enter the instrument if you haven't completed it in one session. The next screen, and you'll also notice these are very sort of simple screens, and that's sort of by design. We're trying to keep it as simple as possible. A couple of things to point out here. The verb tense of the question stem will change depending on when you're filling it out. Right now it says, will you be? On April 2nd, it will say, were you? And all of this is dynamic, so the address will update based on the respondent's 12-digit ID matched to the master address file. For the sake of brevity, we'll just stick with a yes response. So a couple of other things to show in the banner. This will persist on every page. The FAQs, the OMB number's not there yet. We just got it this week. Instructions, and most importantly to the right, the language functionality. You can toggle as often as you like between English and Spanish for the 17 test. The plan is to add 6 additional languages for 18 and more for 2020. So the respondent screen. At this point, notice in the upper right, you can now save and log out. You have all the re-authentication credentials needed to come back if you don't finish in one setting. So the respondent screen, we need some information just in case we need to contact the respondent for any reason afterwards. Notice the telephone field doesn't allow alpha. It's a numeric only. So rather than allow sort of free-form entry and then have a lot of data edits to decrease user frustration, we just went with numeric only, not allowing invalid data. Email is a voluntary field, so there's no edit message, and I just left it blank to speed it up a bit. And that's it for the address verification section. Into the household. How many people are in the household? This numeric field, again, it doesn't allow alpha. We left it blank the first time just to show the functionality, that sort of industry standard hard edit message. It's a required field, so it highlights in red and triggers a message that tells you need to give us something to move forward. So we've said John lives in the household, and we said 2 people are there, so the next question asks who else is there. You have the ability here to add as many people as you want, up to 99, the maximum household size, and all of the electronic or internet data collection instruments for 17 are up to 99. Decided not to do that because it'd take about 6 hours. The next question is the undercount, so we just want to make sure that you haven't not included someone that you should have, with some additional help text to point out who you should include. If you click yes, you get the same UI as on the previous screen in terms of the first, middle, last, same look, feel. And just to demonstrate the functionality, we'll add a person here. So we forgot Joshua for whatever reason. You can also delete from this screen as well. Next is the tenure question in the sort of household flow. Is it owned? Is it rented? So owned. And then who? Again, rather than freeform, which we've done in the past, we actually just list the roster names that you've created so far. You can select more than one, which we did. And if you do, then the first person listed on the roster becomes the first person on this dashboard. So this is sort of the hub for the rest of the survey, and I think this is what makes this a unique internet data collection entity for Census, is that it's completely dynamic. You can answer in any order you want. We went with the first person. First question's pretty simple, sex. DOB, I wanted to point out one functionality here. Again, it's another one of these things, take advantage of the medium. We don't allow, instead of free-form entry here, which we've done in the past, we're going with drop-downs, and we're only allowing valid dates. So if you select the 31st day of a month, it's only going to allow you to select dates that have months that have 31 days in them. So we don't need a lot of edit messages that you've given us invalid data. And you select a year. If it's adequate, we can auto-calc the age. The user can overwrite that age, and we actually collect both values if they do. The race screen, one of the things I wanted to show here is the toggle to Spanish, just because there's a lot of text on this screen. And another functionality to show is the display of the help text. Last year, it was just sort of freeform all the way down. And so if you selected Asian last year, you wouldn't see it. It would be below the fold. You would have to scroll down. So by doing an accordion style this year, but allowing the full interactivity with the user, you can fold or unfold as oft as you like. But it sort of defaults to what you've selected on the screen. So a soft edit, let's show that. If you don't select anything here, instead of a hard edit with any of the required fields highlighted in red, just an edit message that's not red that says you didn't provide anything and some specificity about moving forward if you don't want to provide it. The two new questions for the test, and they're exactly the same in structure and function. The tribal enrollment questions, they're yes/no questions. If you select yes, which I think I do, yeah, you get a dynamically resizing text box that any UTF-8 recognized character set will go in there. And that's it for John, so that's pretty quick. But it's not it for John, because if you wanted to go back and change anything, you have the edit button up until you submit the survey. We'll go with Jane second, and just to show a couple of things, but mainly the difference in question flow is that there's an additional question for anyone who's not the householder. So earlier we said that John and Jane were the householders, but John was first, so he's listed as a householder. Jane, we asked the relationship of Jane to John. But let's say here, instead of female, we're in a hurry, we accidentally mark male. The instrument would check across people to note the inconsistency and then give the respondent a chance to say, no, I didn't mean that. It's actually female. So we've increased data quality with sort of a minimum of effort. And then just to show an extra functionality of the DOB screen, this is age as of census date. It doesn't matter what day in February Jane was born. She's still, I can't see that, whatever, 29. And back to the race screen just to demonstrate the help text display again. So the white ethnicity screen is going to default to showing the white as well, but with full functionality where you can unfold. It's a more immersive user experience. And that text box is also 250 characters in dynamic resizes. And then the same two questions at the end. And we're done with Jane. And rather than do the same thing again for Joshua, let's delete him. And then, before we delete him, just to make sure it wasn't a misclick, a modal that just to ensure that the user intended to do this. And now we see that we can complete the census form. But before we do that, I wanted to show the ability to save and log out and what happens when you come back, because you were issued the credentials and everything. First thing is that we make sure that you know that you will need your reauthentication credentials to come back, and then you're out. So now I skipped over the welcome page and the CAPTCHA because we didn't really need to show those again. And I've already re-entered the same 12-digit user ID from the previous session. Users prompted to give us that big red pin that was issued before. Unless somebody changed the video, I typed it correctly. Slowly. At which point it takes you to exactly where you were when you left off. So John's there, Jane's there, they're both complete. You can still edit or add, delete, and now we're ready to complete. So when we complete the survey, one additional question just to make sure that neither Jane nor John lived anywhere else during the year, and there's instructions on what that means. There's additional help text for noting what that could be. For the sake of brevity, we just went with none. And now you're ready to submit, but again, before just saying, all right, that's it, we would allow the user one last chance and let them know that once you submit the survey, you will not be able to return to the survey, and your data is immediately out of the cloud, essentially. It's transported to Census. And that is essentially, you're done. So the one last piece of functionality there was the Generate PDF button. That's essentially a confirmation that the respondent can either save or print, sort of for their records and use. And that is it. Any questions?
Any questions? None? Okay.
No.
Oh, Trish.
Was this for all of IT? Questions for all?
Yes.
Yes,
Go ahead.
yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. There was mention, actually, you mentioned a schedule for IT, and I was just wondering, is that available? Or internally, you have a detailed schedule for all of software development? How about for the 2018 test? Is any of that going to be publicly available?
The integration and implementation plan has all of the very detailed information by system and what the release dates have to be. And I believe a version of it, I'm looking at Pete, my program manager for systems engineering and integration. Did we post it on the web, Pete?
Not to the state.
Okay. But we can consider doing that, yeah. So, but it's available, and we can make it available for you.
And then more kind of a housekeeping thing. In the past, some of the complicated diagrams have been, you can enlarge it and still read it. It's not blurry. I was wondering if we could get the charts. I noticed these when I just enlarge them to really dig down and see the data flows. It isn't really especially readable.
Yeah, we can definitely send you the electronic versions of the diagrams, yes. I mean, we used to make copies of these, but this time we thought we could use the electronic versions, but we'll definitely send those for you.
The original graphic, so it can be
Yes,
blown up
definitely.
clearly, yeah. Earlier, you said the administrative records for internal systems was yellow. Is that in reference to the PEERSIS?
No, that is more of the availability and the use of administrative records for the purposes of census. The internal use of the systems and the development and the status of the systems is not yellow. We are good to go with PEERSIS on, for the 17 census test.
Any more questions on systems, SEDCAP, internet self-response? Okay. Well, we are ahead of schedule, so I'm just going to, just like the census, okay? So I don't know about all of you, but I'm always so amazed at how much information is presented here. We are truly grateful for having the opportunity to share with you where we are and what we have left to do. This is a critical year for the census as we get ready for the 2018 end-to-end census test. We feel we are on the right path with 2018, and more importantly, with getting us to 2020. We have some real challenges, primarily in balancing our program goals with our schedule and our budget constraints, but with all of that, we keep working and moving forward. I just want to express how much, for the last 2 years, I worked 35 years in the Economic Programs Directorate, and for the last 2 years, I've had this wonderful opportunity to work in decennial, and you know, you work at the Census Bureau, you think about that you know everything that's going on, but I have a tremendous respect working with all the folks in the decennial and related areas on this program, the tremendous commitment that they have to the mission. Everybody is 150% in. And in my 2 years here, I have just really enjoyed seeing the tremendous progress and focus that we've achieved on the program. And I have to just tell you, I'm just going to be very excited seeing the progress as it continues towards 2020. So with that, we really thank you, and we want everyone to have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Thank you.